what the hell is our objective anyway? What is our plan? You know, if you've been watching our channel for any amount of time, my biggest gripe for the United States going back many, many years, going all the way back to the Bush administration, what they did in the Iraq War, the Afghanistan War, through all those administrations, Biden in the Russia-Ukraine War, and now Trump here, is that we don't ever count what the hell we're going to do next. We take an action, a military action, and then we don't know what comes next. If plan A doesn't work, if our preferred action doesn't happen, if the other side doesn't do what we want, then we're like, yeah, what do we do? Well, you've already embarked on a course of action, and now that you don't have any resourced and logical plan to what comes next, so it's just ad hoc, and you're just like, I don't know, what should we do now? That's kind of where we've been as a nation across all administrations, and where we are right now. Here is Secretary Rubio. The United States at war with Iran. I mean, all we did was bomb them, but his curious answer.
Are we now at war with Iran?
No, we're not. This is not a war against Iran. This is very simple. 67 days ago, the President of the United States sent the Iranians a letter, and it said, you're not going to have nuclear weapons. You're not going to have a militarized nuclear program. Let's negotiate. I want to do this diplomatically. I want to do this peacefully. They tried to play him along the way they've played every American president for the last 35 years. And, the president told them, if we don't get a deal, which is what he wanted, then I'll have to handle it differently. And that's what he did last night. He handled it differently. But that was an Iranian choice. We didn't make that choice. They did. By playing games with Donald Trump, they made a huge mistake. And President Trump acted last night. And I think the world today is safer and more stable than it was 24 hours ago. And a bunch of these countries putting out statements condemning us, privately, they all agree with us that this needed to be done. They got to do what they got to do for, their own public relations purposes. But the only people in the world that are unhappy about what happened in Iran last night is the regime in Iran.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that. Whether they're the only ones in the world that are unhappy, I doubt that. That the world is now safer than it was 24 hours ago. Decidedly not. But let's take a look at that initial statement. Are we at war with Iran? No, he confidently asserted. Okay, you just bombed a country significantly on top of what we were already supplying through the proxy of using Israel to bomb Iran, and you want to say, no, we're not at war here. See, that's weird, because consider, let's say, I don't know, we'll just pick this one random example. December 7th, 1941, Japan bombs Pearl Harbor. Now, how foolish would it look for them to come out and say, we're not at war with the United States. We tried to do this through negotiations. We tried to tell them we needed to lift the oil embargo and some of these other sanctions that they had. As long as they do that now, we're still going to be fine. We're going to be okay. But we're not at war with you. We don't have to do this. And the world's a safer place. You see how absurd that would be. You just hit our bases and you killed our people. We just launched 3 nuclear sites, proactively went in there, even though America was not at risk of anything. There was no threats against America. We went in and attacked them. And now we just want to say we're not at war with them because we don't want to be at war. That's the way we want it to be. We want it to be able to go and destroy things in another country, kill a bunch of their people. We don't really care. I actually haven't seen any casualty figures. I don't know how many may or may not have been killed, but we did attack, the core of their system with these weapons at the nuclear facilities. And now then they have vowed revenge. Of course, they have vowed response, crippling response. They've said unimaginable, whatever. We'll see what actually happens. But to just say we're not at war with them is kind of wishful thinking. The other thing that's troubling about his comments there was his flippant attitude that, hey, we told him what to do, and they didn't do it. So there's no international law involved at that at all. There is no justification in the United Nations Charter, the U.S. Constitution, U.S. law, international law. Nothing gives any country the right to say, I don't want you to have this certain policy or this action, so I'm going to go and destroy it. And then I gave you a chance. I gave you 60 days. That's what he's saying. Listen to me carefully, especially all you who are pro-Americans. That is empire by definition. You can say it's not all day long, and you can wave the flag and all this, and you can do that. It won't be accurate. And despite what Rubio says there, the rest of the world does see that, because your words that you just said and the actions that precipitated it just validated that that is empire, that we told you what to do, you didn't do it, so now we bombed you to compel compliance. Argue with me. Tell me that's not the case. Tell me that's not the case. Did we get authorization from the UN Security Council? No. Did we get authorization from the U.S. Congress? No. Were we attacked? No. There's no justification for it, yet that's what we're doing, and we're continuing on with that. But Rubio wasn't finished. He actually said and wants to continue on saying that, look, we were forced into this.
What we want now is to ensure that Iran never has nuclear weapons. If what they want is a civil nuclear program where they have power plants like a lot of other countries in the world have, they can do that. That's the deal that's been offered to them. They rejected it. They played us. They tried to play us, I should say. They wouldn't respond to our offers. They disappeared for 10 days. And now, the president had to take action as a response.
No, the president didn't have to take action as a response. That's again, that's actually more like a kind of a mafia kind of deal. Hey man, I told you, here's the deal. You didn't listen to my deal, my offer, so I had to take action. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's only a slight exaggeration. Maybe it's not any exaggeration. That's again from his own mouth. You just heard him there. Play it back if you want to listen to it again with that lens on, because that's exactly what he said. We told you this is what we wanted you to do. We gave you warning. You didn't listen, so we had to take action. Yeah, no, we didn't have to take action. Vice President wanted to jump in on that too. And he's wanting to say what the American goal is, and just listen to this because it's he's going to contradict himself in the span of about one sentence.
I can say to the American people with great confidence that they are much further away from a nuclear program today than they were 24 hours ago. That was the objective of the mission, to destroy that Fordo nuclear site and, of course, do some damage to the other sites as well. But we feel very confident that the Fordo nuclear site was substantially set back, and that was our goal.
Okay, wait a minute. Was the goal to substantially set back or to destroy the nuclear program? Because it seems like you're trying to say both at the same time. But even in your own admission there, it may have substantially set back. You saw, I think we showed either yesterday or the day before, the Iranian foreign minister, Rakchi, who said, listen, you can hit some of these sites. He said this before the attack. You can hit some of these sites. But for one, we've moved a lot of the material out. But number two, we've got the intelligence and the information and the knowledge. We can continue. We can replace whatever's lost. So unless you want to go in and wipe out all the Iranians, everyone, all the scientific people, which is, of course, by itself a violation of international law to go after civilians. But unless you want to go and wipe them all out, this will do nothing but delay. That's not destroy. That's just said we're going to push it back to another day, which means that you are setting yourself up for perpetual conflict. Because if you don't even give the possibility for the other side to have any option other than getting a nuclear weapon, you have now provided every incentive for them to go to a nuclear weapon. That's what I've been warning about for months, actually for years. But specifically in this current situation, I've been warning that you could push Iran to the very thing you claim to want to prevent, which is them getting a nuclear weapon. They didn't have one. The U.S. intelligence estimates show that. The United Nations IAEA inspectors validated that right before this stuff happened. Actually, some of the bombing had started, and they still said, as of that time they talked about it, it was still not going to a nuclear weapon. And yet we bombed anyway. So now then, it's entirely possible, may even be probable, that whether through overt or covert means that they say, all right, we're going to race to a bomb. It could be that they're going to say, all right, we'll make a deal, we'll talk, whatever, and then like Trump did, but he pretended that he was looking for negotiations and he wanted to get peace of chance, but he was actually just providing cover so that we could get all the pieces in place to bomb them. That Iran could play for the same playbook and say, okay, we'll have a deal, we'll stop fighting, and then covertly go to bomb. And then one day, we're all the world shocked by seeing information that there has been a nuclear test somewhere in an underground facility in Iran. That's the more probable outcome right now. Well done, Vice President. Let's see. The next thing. It's and by the way, we want to have taken all this action, and we just don't want there to be any consequence.
Can you say definitively that Iran's nuclear program has now been destroyed?
Well, John, I don't want to get into sensitive intelligence here, but we know that we set the Iranian nuclear program back substantially last night. Whether it's years or beyond that, we know it's going to be a very long time before Iran can even build a nuclear weapon if they want to. But I actually think that raises the most important question. The president talked about this last night. We want Iran to give up their nuclear weapons program peacefully. If they're willing to choose the smart path, they're certainly going to find a willing partner in the United States to dismantle that nuclear weapons program. But if they decide they're going to attack our troops, if they decide they're going to continue to try to build a nuclear weapon, then we are going to respond to that with overwhelming force. So really what happens next is up to the Iranians.
Yeah, we want to do this, and we just don't want anything to happen. And listen, Iran, dude, just trust us, man. All you got to do is get rid of all this stuff, and then you'll find a good partner with the United States, like Libya did, like Iran has in the past when they had tried to cooperate in the JCPOA, and they had these very stringent conditions placed on them in the expectation that we would live up to our expectations, and then only to have that thrown up and torn into the trash when President Trump came into office in his first term. Like that, you mean? That's what the trust you want to build. And see, here's the problem. We don't want our actions in the past to have consequences. We don't want Trump tearing up that deal in 2018 to have any consequences. We don't want this shredding of the trust that anyone had in us, and especially when we just said we were doing those negotiations and they were all clearly a cover for preparing for the military action. Who's going to trust that? Don't you see how this works against us? Even if there was some in Iran that may say, let's consider a negotiated deal, they would be laughed out of the place or kicked out of their office because they're like, are you stupid? How could we trust Iran, the United States or the West or Israel with our lives and just hand it over and hope that we don't get Gaddafi? You see that? Our past actions have ramifications now, which makes any kind of peaceful resolution to this or even a minimization of what's happened nearly impossible. We have provided the other side there every reason to not listen to a word we say, to trust nothing that we say, and the only option left is to kill Americans. That's why I told you at the outset of this episode that I think that the most logical and self-preserving course of action, despite what Vance wants to argue there, is for them to do exactly against what he said, which is to attack our people. We now have a crosshair on our backs right now, and the logic on the other side, because of our past actions, that could now precipitate the deaths of American troops here, and then now put the president in a position to where almost the only thing he can do is to expand the war.